you'll see on the left-hand column, it's going to show some different names out there. So keto, low carb, low fat, intermittent fasting, paleo, gluten-free, wheat-free, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, meal replacements. So maybe like Herbalife or anything like that. I would say show hands, but obviously, like I said, small face over here, right? I want to hear feedback. So uh, why don't we just go around the room? Whoever feels like speaking, speak. And I want to know from you guys before signing up for athletics, what did you guys try? Like in terms of like these things over here, and just feel free to speak.
I've pretty much done, I mean, everything. I mean, I used to be the guy that anytime you found a new diet, I would try. I did the cabbage, the cabbage diet for 2 weeks, or you eat nothing but cabbage soup. And I mean, I've done it
Ooh.
all. I've taken pills. I've gone to the doctors where they've given me pills. Um, yeah, I mean, I've pretty much tried all this stuff, and
Have
then
you
some.
ever, Brian, have you ever tried the donut and scotch challenge?
I know, but I really want to do that. I really want to do that.
I'll tell
That
you what,
sounds that
man,
sounds more fun than cabbage.
if
Yeah,
we could
Smells
switch up
better
this
too.
if we could switch up the scotch with wine like Pinot Noir or something like that, I'll be in a better more incentive for me to raise my hand.
I'll do a wine. I'm not a wine guy, but I'll do it for two for the challenge or whatever.
We should do that again. It's honestly a lot of
Okay.
fun. Like you'll see, like you'll lose a bunch of weight and it's like, oh wow, I can eat this and drink this. I think that would be cool if we did something like that again soon.
Yeah.
Mark, let's go to you next, man. What have you tried over here in
So,
this category?
yeah, so I'd say the last three are the ones that have had the most experience with. Weight Watchers, I mean, I've tried it a few different times. It was hit or miss. I would do okay for a while and then like it would just come back. It just wasn't like something that worked as an ongoing process for me. Nutrisystem, like this says, it works because it creates a calorie deficit, but also not sustainable because the food is god awful.
Like
Like,
like like awful by taste or awful by like you're still hungry afterwards because it's very small portions.
both. Absolutely both. It's
Okay.
awful by taste and it's awful by portion. I mean, and then meal replacement shakes, I was doing whatchamacallit, Slim Fast.
Slim fast. Yeah.
Um and Slim Fast, I did not lose anything and I was starving. And that was the last thing I did like before finding Heartletics. And I remember, like a lot of people thinking like, okay, I'm going from Slim Fast to all these calories and stuff like this is not going to work. But Slim Fast had just totally wrecked my metabolism. And by switching to more food, but the right food, in a deficit, but not such a severe deficit that it was killing my metabolism, I started to lose the weight, and that's, what I found sustainable ever since.
I was gonna say I've tried like the first four and the last two, and honestly they all sucked in one way, shape, or form. I've been like Bragging Malcolm. I've done the cabbage thing. I've done all kinds of things: pills, doctors, prescriptions. It all sucks. But what I find interesting is the far right. It says how it really works: create a calorie deficit. But only creates a calorie deficit if you follow calorie count. So you can eat low carb and still eat way too many calories. So who wants to do that? But I did for years. I was low carb, and now when we go through the water cut, I hate my life for a week. And I don't know how I literally do not know how I survived eating less than 50 carbs every day for months on end.
Yeah.
After doing that. So never again, except when we do a water cut.
It is rough, man, honestly. It is definitely rough. Who else, guys? I want to continue on because I want to talk about this and then we're going to talk about this middle part and at the end we'll finish away with this. But this is good feedback. I like how everybody has tried several things. Who else feels like sharing, guys?
Yeah, I was gonna say I kind of did I guess you would call it intermittent fasting. I was kind of starving myself. So I only would eat like one large meal a day. So I would just kind of starve myself all morning and just have coffee and then have a granola bar at lunch and then I will have a meal at the end of the day. Um, Before my 30s or around my 30s, that kind of worked. I used to, lose some weight then. But when I in my late 30s into my 40s, that did not work at all. I just ended up just not eating enough. I was always tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple buddies at work that said they were doing that where they go like 18-hour stretches where they like wouldn't eat anything. Their last meal is like 4 o'clock and then they don't eat anything till the next morning kind of thing. But I didn't know if that was good. But I've never done it. The one I
Yeah.
did that's not on the list is Noom,
Oh, Noom.
which
Yeah.
is
Okay.
which was kind of more of almost like nutritional education kind of stuff, like color coded system. Green is good, right? When it comes to veggies, stuff like that. So that helped kind of raise awareness, at least get me thinking about the different things. But that was the primary focus, right? It's not the big picture like what we're doing here, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a piece. It was just a piece of it.
Yeah, with Noom,
Uh,
I like Noom. I think it's funny though because like they like when they first got kicked off and all that stuff, one of their guys, I don't know if it was like an account manager or something like that, they actually reached out to me to see if I want to like kind of help them out when it comes to like coaching and whatnot.
Mm.
And so I thought it was pretty cool, but like
That is
I didn't agree with the plate system just because like I've never seen a plate that has like a round circle with, chocolate and sprinkles on top, so it doesn't work for me. Bill, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna bust Jeff's balls a little bit and say, don't forget to mention all the cabbage soup that you tell me that you
Oh
used
yeah,
to
I've
do.
tried that a couple of times in the past. Those were like quick hit, horrible, weak, flush the system kind of diets. But
So
you put it right back on.
I hear about that though. Is it really you're eating cabbage soup? Like, first off, what is cabbage soup? Because when I think
It,
about that, like,
yeah, it's like cabbage and peppers and things like that. That's kind of like you make a big pot at the beginning of the week, and that's like your main meals. And then like one day it's all veggies, and the next day it's all fruits. And they kind of map out the 6 or 7 days, I think, that you do it. Yeah, it's awful.
awful.
Yeah.
that just
So is the grapefruit diet. That one sucks too.
I mean, it works. I mean, I dropped like 6, 7 pounds in a week, but you put it right back on, right? You're just starving yourself for a week. You're eating good stuff, but I mean, you're just going to put it right back on.
Hate to be
Yeah.
downwind from you.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah. A
problem.
lot
You're
of
on the
alone
toilet all
time,
the time.
right?
a lot
Sleep
of
in the
them.
basement kind of weeks.
You're in the bathroom the whole time. It's horrible.
Yes.
Who
Yeah.
who else, guys? Let's get one more person. Who else has tried any of
I
these
tried
diets?
I tried one from, I think it was through My Fitness, and it was a program at work about 10 years ago. And it was just limited calories. So, for breakfast, I'd have a yogurt, and for lunch, I'd have basically a plain salad, and then, a sensible meal. And I was walking quite a bit, and I lost about 10 pounds in maybe 2 months. But I was starving.
Oh, I'm
And
sure. What is a plain salad? Because when I hear about that, I think about just lettuce, like no cheese, no croutons, no protein, and no dressing.
yeah, pretty much.
Ah, dude, that sounds like just put a gun to my
Let
head.
lettuce and some veggies and
No thanks.
maybe some lemon juice or something like that. But
Lemon juice. Oh, geez.
anything that you could find that didn't have calories in it.
Yeah.
So
Well, guys that all shared this, and I'm sure that some of the guys that did not share what they've tried, they probably tried a few of these, and obviously the guys that's watching this in the replay probably tried a few of these. Now, I really want to talk about this though, right here in the middle section. But the reason why I want to talk about this is because if you guys see the headline, why people think it works. So I hear this all the time from guys that like apply for Heartletics. They're like, hey, I know what I should be doing, right? And maybe you guys tried that, or thought that way too before signing up, where it's like, hey, I know I should be doing this, or I think I should be doing, or I think I should be doing this. And this is where it's like, in my opinion, the fitness industry, it gets people so confused and also so discouraged because it changes their mindset, how they should think about doing things. And like, if you think about this, right? Why people think it works. Well, for keto, cutting out carbs so you can reach ketosis. When you hear ketosis, like you immediately think like, oh man, this is like the best thing in the world. Like my body is primarily using body fat. I can just sit there and watch TV and, not do anything all day. And I'm just fat burning machine, right? Because it's a big fancy word, right? And most of like the health benefits that occur from fasting is typically after 24 hours, like a full 24-hour fast. Paleo, right? Like if you think about it, like, oh man, our ancestors that had to like hunt for survival and everything like that, like they were shredded, they were diced, right? It's like, oh, let's just eat like them, right? We're gonna get that way too. And the list goes on and on and on. But the reality is just that, like, all this does is ruin somebody's mindset when it comes to how they should be looking at food. And maybe you guys can put yourself in that category when you tried some of these diets before in the past, where it's like, hey, maybe you tried it because you thought, right, these things were going to happen. But then essentially, if it didn't work for you, now maybe you have a bad relationship with either that macronutrient, that food, or that diet itself. Obviously, does it create a calorie deficit? Yes, and I'll talk about that. But I really want to talk more the specifics about this. And if I can get some other people speaking about it, maybe on their behalf and their, what kind of happened with them, that would be even cool. But I want to talk about when I did keto and fasting. And most of you guys know I've done these two and I've talked about it often and how it really kind of screwed with me. So I did keto and I got shredded. I mean, I got so diced to the bone. And I really want you guys to understand this. Like being ripped, like we're talking like, 7% body fat. And disclaimer, right? If anybody ever says, like, because I had somebody that actually applied for our coaching program, and he said, he's like, dude, I want to get back to 3% body fat. You are never 3% body fat. You will die if you're 3% body fat, right? So healthy, right, body fat ranges, I like to say 10 to 15 is a good sweet spot. And why is that healthy? Well, hey, you see obviously some visible abs, right? You got the muscle, but anything below that sucks, right? Completely sucks because it's not fun at all. And so when I was doing keto, I got to about 6, 7% body fat. And like, I wasn't doing the keto that most guys think it's keto. Most guys claim they're doing keto, but they're actually doing low carb. So a true ketogenic diet is where you're either, peeing on little pea sticks, right? And that's what I was doing, or you're checking your blood for your ketone levels to actually see if you're actually in ketosis. And that's what I was doing. And one, I remember just every single time checking to see if I was in ketosis, thinking to myself, this is stupid. Like, who would actually want to do this on a week to week basis? Like, this isn't fun. But most importantly is just like it screwed me up mentally and also physically. So when I got done, doing my cut, doing my first photo shoot and all that stuff after doing a ketogenic diet, I remember that like my body, it took probably at least 3 to 4 months where I can have carbohydrates and not store it as fat. Like most of you guys, it's following a well-balanced diet, and that's typically all the macronutrients that we have set up. It's in a well-balanced diet approach. Like your body's not going to store fat for carbohydrates. But when you switch your, running off glycogen to running off ketones, and your body's not used to that primary fuel source, you will notice like, hey, you have a little bit of rice, you have a little bit of bread, like you start bloating so big, right, and bad, and like you start putting on body fat because your body does not know how to digest it anymore. Your body does not know how to utilize it for fuel because for the longest, right? I was doing it for 7 months straight. It was using just primarily ketones. The second thing that I didn't like was just the mental and emotional effect that it had on me with my relationship with food. Like I remember thinking like, oh, this is the best diet in the world because I'm getting shredded, but I was just the shiny object syndrome. Like I remember telling everybody like, dude, why are you eating carbs? Like that's stupid. Like you're gonna put on body fat. And now I'm the complete opposite. Now I'm like, if you don't eat carbs, you're stupid. Right. But like at that time, and this is like what this is honestly like probably 2014, I want to say. Yeah, this is a long time ago, 2014, maybe 2013. This is when I did it. And it ruined a lot of mentally how I viewed food, how I viewed carbohydrates. So it screwed with me big time. Okay. So that's my experience with keto and fasting. So I was doing fasting. I was typically just doing the, 12 hours of fast, 16, or excuse me, what was it, like 12/8. But then I cut that back where I was fasting for a little bit longer. I think when I got into the prime of my fasting stage, when I was like really obsessed with it, kind of like keto, I was typically fasting for 20 hours a day and eating, I should say, my feeding window for 4 hours a day. And Gabe, I know you always smash Chipotle, man, on these calls, and you have the amazing Tabasco sauce, the green one. So like I remember specifically, and you guys probably heard me say this before, I sound like a broken record. I remember I could not eat until like 1 o'clock on the dot. And I was at Chipotle sitting there with three of my other friends. They're smashing their food. And I'm like playing around on my phone, like talking with them. And they're just like, dude, why are you not eating? And I remember like I was brainwashed, honestly, I could say that. I was brainwashed to believe like if I eat even 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes before 1 o'clock on the dot, I'm going to ruin all my gains. I'm going to ruin all my progress. And like, you guys might think that sounds so stupid, which it is. But some of you guys, honestly, and this is why we're having this conversation, still have that relationship when it comes to maybe alcohol, donuts, sweets, where you feel like, oh, I fed the bad wolf for this weekend. Like, I'm going to ruin all my gains, ruin all my results. It doesn't work like that. Right. And the reason why I'm sharing with you guys my experience is because one, like, the biggest effect that it had on me was mentally once again. And so I want you guys to know, like, hey, if you're cutting out the alcohol, if you're cutting out the carbs, or you think like, oh man, I'm going to sabotage all my results because I had this on the weekend, it's the same thing as if, Coach Joe is sitting at Chipotle with three of his friends and he's literally waiting for all of his friends, right, before he can actually eat his food. He's waiting for 1 o'clock on the dot. And I remember specifically, like, as soon as I open up my Chipotle and can start diving in, they're already done, right? Like, nobody takes a long time smashing Chipotle, especially if you're hungry. So they're now talking and waiting for me to finish my meal. It was socially awkward. Okay. So does anybody have anything that they want to share, or some, stories about some of the diets that they tried?
I'll share that, I did the low carb, low fat thing many times over the years. Somewhat successful that, to get it off, but guess what? It's not sustainable and it came right back. But I'll just say, the times that I did it would be for months at a time. And it sucked because, my family loves carbs. So to sit there and not eat it while everyone else was just, torturing myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Very similar to myself. Like, we all love pasta, right? That's a huge thing in an Italian household, obviously. And when I was doing keto, it was like, what was I doing? It was like zucchini pasta. And I know some of you guys would be like, oh, that sounds good. Well, guess what? It does not taste good for me. Like, it tasted like eating cardboard. Like, and I was trying to just put pasta sauce on top of it, trying to fake it. I'm like, as an Italian, I feel like I'm like displeasing my ancestors right now. Eating spaghetti squash.
Yeah, I did those zucchini noodles. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I
Oh yeah.
mean, it fills you up because there's a lot of fiber, but trust me, like, you give me some like actual angel hair compared to spaghetti squash, I'm taking angel hair to the bank every day of the week.
Yep. And I even remember the conversation that we had on our first discovery call, where you asked me what I thought my problem was, and I distinctly remember saying it was portion size, and you're like, it's not. You're not eating enough.
Dude, Mike, I'm so glad this is recorded right now because like, and I would exit this out and do a show of hands, but like, that is everybody's thinking, right? Thinking in terms of like why they're not successful at losing weight, portion control. And it's never portion control. Like, it's never the case. Even if somebody was severely overeating, I bet you anything, if they were just like working out more effectively and getting plenty of steps in, they would probably see better results too.
Yep.
It's never the portion control. Brian Malcolm, I think you were going to share before Mike.
Yeah, so basically I did low carb and yeah, I was successful on it because when you go from being overweight, because like I think when I turned 21, I tried to do the beer challenge where I drank beer every single day for the whole year. And
Wait,
and then
what's
I
the
worked
beer challenge?
it's like when you first turn 21, the beer challenge is you got to have at least one beer a day for your entire year of your first year of being 21.
I've never heard of
And
that. That's
yeah, so
funny.
I tried that. And I got pretty successful at it. But I also worked at a pizza restaurant, so I would just get free pizza all day long. And then of course, when you're not eating properly and you're just smashing, then I would always turn to low carb. And all low carb did for me is like, yeah, I lost a bunch of weight when I did it. But it developed the binge habit because what I would do is like, yeah, I would lose weight and I'd go hard, and then like once or twice a week, I would smash like a whole pizza in one sitting, and then I'd feel guilty about it and go right back on the low carb the next day. And that was basically my life, and it was my life up until Heartletics, where my relationship with food was just terrible. I always thought, oh, I was bad, so now I got to punish myself. So then there'd be days where, and I would always start the day, I'd fast for like I remember one time for my weigh-ins, I had fasted for almost 48 hours before I weighed in because I was trying to cheat the system, you know what I mean? Like back in the day. So that's all low carb did for me. It just created this terrible relationship with food. And then now I created a binge habit. So now I have a problem with binge eating sometimes.
Yeah, and this is why I always say, and thank you, Mike, and thank you, Brian, for sharing that. That's why I always say, guys, like diets aren't sustainable, but like it's more so of like the reason why it's not sustainable is because it kind of screws you up as you progress. Like it's almost better to just second guess everything rather than do a diet because it's, you kind of leave yourself kind of like what you said, Brian, having like this unhealthy relationship with food or like this binge factor afterwards because like it kind of like affected you, you know?
I was going to say one of the other things that it's not on this list, but one other thing that I had done at one point was a quote unquote nutritionist. But what this nutritionist did was really just give you a laid out diet, and then she would help you, like if there was stuff on it that you didn't like, she would, tell you what to substitute it for. But the thing about that, and also same thing with Nutrisystem and with meal replacement shakes, is you're not learning how to pick foods that you're just eating what you're told, and that's never going to last forever because no one wants to eat what they're told for the rest of their lives. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I found successful with Heartletics was I learned how to eat, like how to pick my own food and eat what I like and make it work, whereas those things are just saying, here, eat this.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad you said that. I'm gonna go on a little Coach Joe rant now. Um, which is good because it's all going to helping you guys have a better mindset with things. So you said, the thing there at the end that I want to touch base on first was, hey, you were told I can't eat this. And if you guys think about it, right, like most of you guys have kids, right? Like if imagine your kid, and I'll just use Oakley for example. Oakley's 5 years old and he's like obsessed with like certain things here and there. Like it used to be dinosaurs, now it's Hot Wheels, and like now it's like these like Toy Story Army Ranger guys, whatever. But like if I happen to take away one of his favorite toys, he gets very upset. And I'm sure like you guys know that like when maybe with your kids at a younger age, when they're toddlers, if you happen to, take something away from them, maybe it's a favorite toy, maybe it's like a sucker or Rice Krispie treat, something like that, Pop Tart, whatever the case may be, and you tell them, hey, you can't have this anymore, what do they start to do? Right? They start to complain, they start to whine because they want it 10 times more. Guys, we're exactly the same when it comes to food and things out there. Like people generally want what they can't have. Two things I'll hit the nail on the head with is one, learning what works best for your body type and lifestyle to create sustainable habits. And two, learning how to every single day make that small investment into you becoming the best version of yourself for the future, for long-term success. And what does that actually mean? Well, hey, what can we do today to become 1% better than who we were yesterday? Can we get more steps in? Can we focus in on our nutrition better? Can we drink more water? Can we get more sleep? Can we focus on, our stress management times? That's what it all boils down to, guys.